Hi, I'm Jake. I make RPG supplements and videos about Pathfinder 2, or PF2. I love PF2, and I love this kitty. He's really adorable. Because he's a dork. He's adorkable. Welcome to the Animist overview, plus apparitions. The overview is going to be very brief. It's mostly apparitions. But the Animist and Exemplar are really... There's just so much to talk about that it has to be split up into multiple videos. So this video is going to be the Animist overview, like how their spells work, and then apparitions, and that's it. And the next Animist video is going to be the subclasses and the feats. Because the subclasses each get one of the feats when they start off, so that kind of makes an obvious pairing for a video. And the apparitions, you need to know how their spells work in order to understand how the apparitions can assist their spellcasting. So I'm going over all that today. If you want to skip right to the apparitions, go to this time. If not, I'm going to read a brief intro of Animist so you get a feel, and then talk about how their spells work. Animist. You are the interlocutor between the seen and unseen, the voice that connects the mortal and the spiritual. You bond with spirits, manifesting their distinct magic and allowing their knowledge to flow through you. You may favor apparitions that grant you healing magic, others that grant you spells of destructive power, or pick and choose between different apparitions as your environment and circumstances demand. You may consider your powers part of a sacred trust, or see your unique abilities as a sign that you've been chosen as a champion of two worlds. Whether you advocate for mortals in the planes beyond, or whether you represent the spirit's interests, you provide the bridge between realms. I know this just screams out for being the Exorcist archetype as well. So the Animist does not have the rare tag like the Exemplar. However, I don't recommend the Animist unless you are really comfortable with how Pathfinder 2 spellcasting works and you are willing to plan out your spells. Because you will have to plan out your spells at the beginning of the day and then at the beginning of every fight and then in between fights. Seriously. Alright, let's go directly to the spell list. So it's a Divine Caster. It's based on wisdom. So the spell list that you see on your screen, or the spell rank chart that you see on your screen, means that the first number is how many divine spells of that level, of that rank, you get to cast per day. The second number is how many spontaneous apparition spells you get to cast per day. So you will never have more than 2 of either. With the Animist, you get one additional 10th rank spell per day at that level, but it's only for the avatar spell because each apparition has a unique flavor and set of abilities that are based on that apparition for the avatar spell. I don't really care. Yeah, it's flavorful, but only if you're 19th level. So who cares? All right. So, you are half a divine spellcaster, so you prepare those spells at the beginning of the day. The other half, you can switch out which apparition you can pull from during the day. So, it's really important to know which apparitions you want to be able to cast from. And you can switch them out while you're refocusing. So, yeah, we have to go over the apparitions to understand how the Animist is going to work in combat. There are 11 apparitions. They don't just make up your second half of spellcasting, they also are how your focus spells are determined. Something weird about Animists is that there are no feats that allow you to cast an extra focus spell. Your focus spells are always determined only by which apparitions you have and how many you can have active at a time. Yeah, alright. So you start with 1 focus point and access to 2 apparitions, one of which is primary. At 7th level, you get a total of 3 apparitions and 2 focus points. And then at 15th level, you have 4 apparitions. Hi. And 3 focus points. Now, this is, of course, aside from any other focus points you get any other way, like archetypes. Yes, hello. One thing to point out about the apparition focus spells is that while one of the apparition focus spells is active, you cannot, again, use that apparition's focus spell. It's just a balance thing. It was to avoid doing fuck tons of damage with Steward of Stone and Flame. But the lore is that when you're using a focus spell, that apparition is busy doing that focus spell action. Like, it is physically active doing that power. And so it can't do another of the same thing because it can only be in one place at a time. Sure, okay. So let's go over how to read an apparition entry. Reading an apparition entry. An apparition entry contains the following information: apparition skills. Each apparition has amassed knowledge on a particular set of lore skills that cover their areas of interest and expertise. When you are attuned to an apparition, you are trained in these lore skills, channeling the apparition into your body to share its knowledge on the subject. At 8th level and beyond, you can draw upon even more of the apparition's knowledge, gaining expert proficiency in their apparition skills. At 16th level and beyond, your harmony of mind and spirit grants you master proficiency in their apparition skills. They're almost always lore, but it's cool that you can trade out your lore during the day. Apparition spell repertoire. Your attuned apparitions each contribute a number of spells to your apparition spell repertoire. You add the spells of all your attuned apparitions together to create a spell repertoire which you cast with your apparition spell casting. And at 1st level, until 7th, that's 2. 2 attuned apparitions. One of them is primary and one of them is not primary. I'm guessing that means it's secondary. Vessel spell. Your primary apparition grants you the listed vessel spell at 1st level. Yeah, so it matters. So how many apparitions you're permitted to have as primary, or how many options you have for focus spells. So I predict that this class would be dipping into a lot of other focus spell options via archetyping so that you can have some more flexibility. I know, I want more flexibility with my flexibility. Avatar. When you cast Avatar using the apparition slot granted by the Supreme Incarnation class feature, you temporarily fuse with one of your primary attuned apparitions into a powerful battle form of near deific power, using the limited stats here instead of a deity's. I'm not going to be going over all of the avatars, because they don't matter, because they're 19th level. I'll mention the feel of them, though. First apparition, Crafter in the Vault. I find this one fascinating, because it's not what I expected. Crafters in the Vault are found in dungeons, forges, or other places where creation and injury occur concurrently. The idea behind these spirits is that you find them in the wild or they're bonded to your soul. So there are spirits that lie in every kind of place you can think of in the world, and you connect with them. And then they become your apparition when you travel. They go with you. They enjoy partnering with animists who compliment them on their creations, but often become jealous when anyone else intrudes on their expertise, including casting any of the spells that appear on their apparition list. That's amusing. Apparition skills, architecture lore, and engineering lore, so you get both of these. Apparition spells cantrip, sigil. 1st, mending. 2nd, knock. 3rd, ghostly weapon. 4th, creation. These make sense. 5th, impaling spike. 6th, wall of metal. 7th, beheading buzzsaw. 8th, Ferris form. I laugh inappropriately all the time. It's okay. 8th, Ferris form. 9th, resplendent mansion. So it's all about creating stuff and using tools. Vessel spell, traveling workshop, which I will go over. Avatar, incarnate dungeon. That's the name of the spell. So its abilities are dungeon trap and deadly darts and burrow speed. Like, it feels like a dungeon, but it's not like you grow to beyond gargantuan size to be an actual dungeon. It's just flavored like a dungeon. Apparition vessel spell. Traveling workshop. 1 action, focus 1. Almost all focus spells are 1 action. It has the uncommon animist focus and manipulate traits. Duration sustained up to 1 minute or 8 hours. Your apparition guides you through complex procedures while using your magic to provide you with whatever tools you need. For the duration of this spell, you are trained in crafting and thievery, which could be freaking handy in a dungeon. Or, not a dungeon. Whatever. When you cast the spell, and as long as you sustain it, your apparition provides you with an array of simple tools, granting you use of an alchemist toolkit, a repair kit, and a thieves toolkit. These tools are made of ephemeral magic and disappear if they leave your possession. I think they should also be ghostly. Doesn't say that, but they should be. You can cast this spell as an exploration or downtime activity with a casting time of 10 minutes. When you do, its duration increases to 8 hours, enough to complete 1 day of work, and you also gain an alchemist lab and functioning forge. That's why I love it. Because you are, with no tools on your person, you are a traveling merchant and weapon crafter. Freaking cool! You are always treated as having spent a day of work setting up when using this spell to help you craft an item and have whatever materials you need to repair an item in your possession. It just means it takes less time to make it. You can't use a traveling workshop, the spell, to earn income, and any item you craft using it disappears moments after it leaves your possession, making it unwise to craft anything other than consumable items you intend to use yourself. So you don't have to have raw materials either. You just make shit. A crafter in the vault is extremely proud of work you do together when using the spell in this way and demands to see the results of your work together. When you cast Traveling Workshop as an exploration or downtime activity, you must continue to choose Crafter in the Vault as one of your tuned apparitions during your next daily preparations until such time as you've used any crafted items in combat. Until such time as you've used any of those crafted items. That's a little annoying. It's sort of completely personally and emotionally invested in what you made with the spirit. I see this as sort of you set up a shop and a dwarven smith appears and you hand them things and they start banging on the forge that just mystically got created, and you guys are talking about your plans and what you want to make and why. It's this really complex relationship that you have with all of your apparitions. And I like the idea of it manifesting that way. Alright, so if this is heightened to 3rd rank, your proficiency in crafting and thievery is expert. If it's heightened to 5th rank, your proficiency in crafting and thievery is master. If it's heightened to 9th rank, it's legendary. Next apparition, Custodian of Groves and Gardens. Custodians of groves and gardens frequent tended greenery and farmlands cared for by loving stewards, and other places of reflection and restoration where green things grow. Some of these apparitions linger in the mortal realm not because they have lost their way, but because they believe they have already found Elysium. Others are the cultivated spiritual essence of the location itself. Custodians of groves and gardens are peaceful, quiet, and averse to conflict. So I'm picturing this sylvan glade with this reflecting pool of water that's perfectly still, and green grass growing everywhere, and moss on all the stones. Apparition skills, farming lore, and herbalism lore. Not all of these skills are actually useful. They don't claim to be. But herbalism lore makes more sense for usefulness than farming lore. I don't know, maybe you could roll farming lore to know about ankegs. I don't even know if that's in the system. Monsters that live in farms. Apparition spells. The cantrip is Tanglevine. 1st rank is Protector Tree, which is really cool if it's heightened. 2nd rank, Gentle Breeze. 3rd, Safe Passage. 4th, Peaceful Bubble. 5th, True Speech. 6th, Field of Life, which is a nice one. So obviously there's some healing in here. 7th, Lifewood Cage. 8th, Moment of Renewal. 9th, Nature's Enmity. Vessel Spell, Garden of Healing. So the avatar form is Peaceful Reaches. More of a concept, I guess? I'm picturing a mountain that reaches out a grass-covered arm. You ignore difficult terrain, and greater difficult terrain, it has an impose peace attack because it does mental damage and it's non-lethal. Alright, fine. Vessel spell, Garden of Healing. 1 action, uncommon, animist, aura, emotion, focus, healing, mental traits. Area, 10-foot emanation, duration sustained up to 1 minute. Spirits of comfort and respite swirl around you, trailing visions of growing grass and blooming blossoms. When you cast this spell, and the first time you sustain it on each subsequent round, you generate a pulse of renewing energy that heals each creature within the emanation for 1d4 hit points. The calm of this effect lingers. Once this spell ends, any creature that has been affected by its healing gains a +1 circumstance bonus to saves against emotion effects for 10 minutes. but does not receive any healing from additional castings of the spell while the bonus persists. I tried to think of some way of removing a +1 circumstance bonus, and there are ways to suppress it, but that doesn't mean you don't have it. It just means it doesn't function. Anyway, heightened for every rank, the healing granted by the spell's pulse increases by 1d4 hit points. So, you heal everybody in the area. That's the main purpose for this spell. Yes, it's nice to have bonuses to spells with the emotion trait, but it's mostly the healing. But it's an AoE healing, so that's cool. Next apparition, Echo of Lost Moments. Echoes of Lost Moments are apparitions born from memories that everyone has forgotten, often arising from fragmented pieces of magic and memory left behind by time-altering magic. They may even occur in response to significant temporal tampering, cleaning up fragments of time damaged by irresponsible magic. These apparitions are drawn to animists who are orderly and responsible, and they can give such hosts access to spells that alter a target's timeline or removes them from the current timeline, reveal visions of past or future events, or even accelerate magical effects to a point in time where they have already ended. Apparition skills. Fortune-telling lore, genealogy lore. Okay, so genealogy could be useful to find out information about, like, a court of nobles, who's related to who. So you can do some political maneuvering and use diplomacy a lot. Fortune-telling lore is extremely useful. It's useful for making money, sure. But it's also useful for some rituals, or knowing about curses. It's actually a good lore. Apparition spells, cantrip, figment. First, Deja Vu. Second, Dispel Magic. Third, Curse of Lost Time. This is very occulty. Fourth, Vision of Death. Fifth, Illusory Scene. Sixth, Phantasmal Calamities. Seventh, Retrocognition. I wish that were just called Remembering. Eighth, Quandary. Ninth, Foresight. And Quandary is the main spell. So it really messes with people's minds a lot. And illusions and time. Vessel spell is Store Time. Avatar is Devourer of Lost Time. That's just a really cool dramatic name. So it has a void attack called Devour Potential, and it has a void ranged attack called Scream of Loss. That should do mental damage. Why is that void? Whatever. Apparition Vessel spell Store Time. 1 action. It has the traits Uncommon, Animist, and Focus. Duration sustained up to 1 minute. You store time for later use. When you cast this spell and the first time you sustain it each round, you gain a bonus reaction that you can use for any animist or apparition reaction you have. As normal, this reaction is lost if you do not use it before you regain your actions at the start of your next turn. So this is only for animist or apparition reactions. That's the feats. Sorry. Doesn't really do anything that you know of right now. It is useful for some of the feats, though. But it's very situational. You give up an action on your turn, because you have to sustain it, to get a reaction. So you better be interested in using more than 1 reaction per turn, or you just lost an action. For nothing. I just don't like that. It's a cool effect, but couldn't it do something in addition? Like you also get, I don't know, +1 to your AC, or +1 to initiative, or something. Alright. Next apparition. So, obviously, I'm a little underwhelmed by Echo of Lost Moments. But the fortune-telling lore is useful, and the spells are good. It's just the Vessel spell I'm not thrilled with. Next apparition. Imposter in Hidden Places. Imposters in hidden places whisper in quiet corners where mortal voices rarely resound, hoarding secrets and pondering unknowable truths. They often bring misfortune to those who disturb them, though an animist who earns their trust will find that they make effective allies. I'm picturing an ancient dragon buried in the jungle reading from a library she constructed herself. Yes, this might have been in an adventure I created. Apparition skills. Fortune-telling lore. Obviously, you know I like that one. Underworld lore. Which is also useful for making money, just illegally. I didn't want him to have my coffee. He didn't like that. Underworld lore is so useful in so many adventures. Because then you can just be like, well, what do I know about the weird things that have been happening in this town? I don't know. Do you have anything that fits? Well, society or underworld lore. Apparition spells. Cantrip. Telekinetic hand. Sorry. That makes sense. Imposter in hidden places. Telekinetic hand. I'm gonna steal shit. First, ill omen. Second, invisibility. Third, veil of privacy. Fourth, liminal doorway. Fifth, strange geometry. I love that spell. It's freaking weird. Sixth, mislead. Seventh, planar palace. Eighth, disappearance. Ninth, phantasmagoria. Yeah, it's a good spell, but it's 9th level, so, you know, it's going to be a good spell. Vessel spell, discomfiting whispers. Avatar, whisper hiding in shadows. That's a long name. That's like an exemplar. Whisper hiding in shadows. Anyway, so it has 2 void attacks, shadowed touch and whisper of despair. Cool. Apparition Vessel spell, Discomfiting Whispers, 1 action. It has the traits of Uncommon Animist, Aura, Focus, Misfortune, Void. Area, 5 foot, Emanation, Defense Will, duration sustained up to 1 minute. You are surrounded by an aura of spiteful murmurings that incite bad luck and punish failure. Each creature that starts their turn within the area of the spell must succeed at a will save or roll twice on their first attack roll that round, and take the lower value. If an attack roll modified in this way results in a failure, the creature that rolled the failed attack takes 1d6 void damage. Did you hear me say that it's only enemies? No. No, you didn't. It's each creature around you. Each of them. So there are some animist abilities that lend toward a melee martial playing style. I'd argue that this is one of them. Because it's a 5 foot emanation, and you're not going to want to screw over your friends. Ugh. There is support here for melee animists, though. But like any divine caster who's trying to do melee, like a martial cleric, you're going to be buffing yourself to get up to the same level or close to the same level as other martial characters. You'll never be a fighter, but you still might be good in a fight. Okay, so Discomfiting Whispers, if it is heightened 2 spell ranks, the void damage dealt on a failure increases by 1d6. So really it's just to curse people. It's not meant to do tons of damage. Next apparition, Lurker and Devouring Dark. Lurkers in Devouring Dark, I love that name, are most often near old shipwrecks, deadly icebergs, and other places where ice and deep water are most prevalent. In places where the dark tapestry intrudes upon the world, that's the space between the stars, it's Lovecraftian mythos, elder gods, that kind of thing. In places where the dark tapestry intrudes upon the world, there can be found variant lurkers in Devouring Dark who offer dark tapestry lore in place of sailing lore, and whose spells of water and ice instead deal void damage, which would be great if you don't give a shit about sailing lore, because unless you're on a sailing adventure, it doesn't matter at all. Nope. I might let people roll it if they're like trying to tie a really good knot. Yeah. Apparition skills, ocean lore, sailing lore, or dark tapestry lore, because it could be good to know about evil cults. Apparition spells, cantrip, caustic blast. First, grim tendril. Second, acid grip. Third, aqueous orb. Fourth, grasp of the deep. Fifth, wall of ice. Sixth, frost pillar. Seventh, hungry depths. Eighth, arctic rift. Ninth, implosion. I love this spell selection because it's varied, and it has like physical manipulative abilities that aren't just damage. It's a good spell list for combat. The avatar form has it's called Tentacles from the Dark. It has a swim speed and its regular running speed, ground speed. It has a grasping tentacles, attack, reach 30 feet, and it grabs, so that's cool. Vessel spell, Devouring Dark form. 1 action, it has the traits Uncommon, Animist, Focus, Morph. Duration, sustained up to 1 minute. Your apparition's dark power blends with your physical body, allowing you to take on terrifying characteristics of creatures that lurk in dark places. Your arms and legs transform into twisting tentacles. You gain a tentacle unarmed attack with 10-foot reach that deals 1d8 bludgeoning damage and has the grapple trait. That's fun. The first time you sustain the spell each round, you can attempt a single grapple check with your tentacle against a creature within its reach. I love that they worked an attack into the sustaining. This means that you can use this ability in melee combat. If they hadn't done that, it's kind of just crap, because there aren't a lot of other things that you could do at the same time. But this allows you to try to grapple, and you could still cast a spell if you want, because you would still have 2 actions left, or make other attacks, whatever. Heightened rank, heightened to second rank. You can choose to take on the shark battle form from animal form instead of gaining a tentacle unarmed attack, heightened to the same level as this vessel spell. When you do, the spell loses the morph trait and gains the polymorph trait. You can attempt a Jaws unarmed strike against a creature within your reach each time you sustain this spell. That might be better in some cases because it's just damage instead of grapple. Heightened to 5th rank, you can choose to take on the water elemental battle form from elemental form instead of gaining a tentacle unarmed attack, heightened to the same level as this vessel spell. When you do, this spell loses the morph trait and gains the polymorph trait. You can attempt an unarmed attack strike against a creature within your reach each time you sustain this spell. Cool. That's a really, really good apparition overall, except for fucking sailing lore. I'm glad that they offered an option. It could be quite useful. Dark Tapestry lore. Next apparition, Monarch of the Fey Courts. Monarchs of the Fey Courts make their homes near places with strong ties to the First World, or in places where nymphs once held sway. They are drawn to animists who blend an appreciation for art and nature's beauty with a ruler's ambition. Monarchs of Fey Courts are vain, capricious, and do not easily forgive slights or poor manners. So they're arrogant snobs. Apparition skills, art lore, Fey lore. Art lore can be useful for determining the value of items, if it's art. And Fey lore is useful for Fey creatures, obviously. Apparition spells. Cantrip, Tanglevine. Seems like a very common cantrip here. First, charm. Second, create food. Third, enthrall. Fourth, suggestion. Fifth, hallucination. Sixth, dominate. Seventh, mask of terror. Eighth, uncontrollable dance. Ninth, unfathomable song. It's all very Fey. I think I love create food in that. Because, like, you can keep switching apparitions during downtime or exploration activities. So, like, you can keep having the option of survival type abilities throughout your day. That's just neat. Vessel spell, Nymph's Grace. Avatar, Queen of the Winter Court. So she flies and swims and has a regular movement speed. Queen's Caress, 15-foot mental damage. Monarch's Spite is ranged, mental, and cold. Or cold, I should say. So apparition, vessel spell, Nymph's Grace. 1 action, has the traits Uncommon Animist, Aura, Emotion, Focus, Incapacitation, Mental, Visual. Area, 10-foot emanation, defense will, duration sustained up to 1 minute. Your apparition manifests as a mask of unearthly beauty that bewilders your enemies. The first time an enemy enters the aura each round, or if they start their turn within the aura, they must succeed at a will saving throw or become confused for 1 round. Awesome. While confused by this effect, the creature's confused actions never include harming you. Awesome! And it's just enemies! That is the perfect example of a great, well-built focus spell. That's fun. Yeah. Yeah. Ooh, you could expand that. Ooh, 15-foot emanation. Next apparition, Reveler in Lost Glee. Revelers in Lost Glee are twisted apparitions that arise in desolate and abandoned places where people once found great joy. Think creepy carnival. They take immense mirth in causing harm or discomfort to others and do not enjoy being attuned to animists who fail to laugh at their antics. Your apparition could get pissed at you. That's funny. Apparition skills, circus lore. Always useful. Fortune-telling lore. Many times it's useful. Circus lore. What would you roll circus lore for? If you guys have ideas about what to roll circus lore for, juggling? Could you, maybe that, sure. Organizing a troupe or something. Apparition spells, cantrip, prestidigitation, makes perfect sense. First, dizzying colors, also makes perfect sense. Second, laughing fit. Third, hypnotize. Fourth, confusion. Fifth, illusory scene. Sixth, vibrant pattern. Seventh, warp mind. Eighth, quandary. Ninth, wails of the damned. This is great. I mean, yeah, there's some creepiness worked in here, but there's also a lot of just fucking with people's heads. This is a very useful controller apparition. Nice. Vessel spell, Trickster's Mirrors. Avatar, Ringmaster of the Dark Celebration. What a great name. It ignores difficult terrain and greater difficult terrain. It has a Ringmaster's Whip, 15 feet. It's slashing damage and Feast of the Lost and Acid Spit, basically. Versatile Void. Apparition Vessel spell Trickster's Mirrors, 1 action. It has the traits Uncommon, Animist, Focus, Illusion, Mental, and Visual, Defense, Basic Will. Duration sustained up to 1 minute. You are surrounded by up to 3 mirrors that reflect twisted and distorted images of you, making it hard to tell where you actually are within your space, and potentially causing those who attack you to hit one of the mirrors instead. You start with 1 mirror and gain an additional mirror each time you sustain this spell, up to a maximum of 3 mirrors. Any attack that would hit you has a random chance of hitting one of your mirrors instead of you. With 1 mirror, the chances are 1 in 2, 1 to 3 on 1d6. With 2 mirrors, there is a 1 in 3 chance of hitting you, 1 to 2 on 1d6. With 3 mirrors, there is a 1 in 4 chance of hitting you, 1 on 1d4. Once an image is hit, it is destroyed. If an attack roll fails to hit your AC but doesn't critically fail, it destroys a mirror. If the attacker was within 5 feet, they must succeed at a basic will save or take 1d4 mental damage as they believe themselves cut by a shower of glass shards from the breaking mirror. A damaging effect that affects all targets within your space, such as Caustic Blast, destroys all of the mirrors. That part sucks. Alright, so this is just mischance. And you can get, because it's sustained up to 1 minute, you can get a total of 10 mirrors. Having the possibility of getting missed 10 times? Fucking awesome! Oh, if it's heightened, every rank, it's heightened. The mental damage dealt by a broken mirror increases by 1d4. Like, who cares if it does damage? This protects you really well. It's great. It's a good spell. It's a really good spell. Yeah, so it's like a controlling apparition that protects you well. That is a really well-built apparition. For combat, obviously. Next apparition, Stalker in Darkened Boughs. Stalkers in Darkened Boughs make their homes in ancient forests and jungles unfriendly to humanoids and others who would exert control or influence over nature's designs. These apparitions are drawn to animists who harbor violent thoughts or impulses, but are more likely to linger with animists who can quell their hatred. So like restrained fury, like barbarians, I guess? Stalkers in Darkened Boughs are moody, impulsive, and prone to seeing things from the least charitable perspective. I kind of like the idea of all of these apparitions being voices in your ear that are whispering things while you're trying to talk to people. Because they are your companions, and they want to be listened to, and they want to have a relationship with you. That's how you get their power. So I'm just picturing them going, he's up to no good. Look at that horribly tied Windsor knot. Can you believe he did that himself? Anyway. Apparition skills. Forest lore, hunting lore. Totally useful lores. Apparition, I meant that seriously. Apparition spells. Cantrip, Gouging Claw. First, Runic Body. Great. Second, Vomit Swarm. Third, Wall of Thorns. Fourth, Bestial Curse, which is not all that useful, but the rest are so far. 5th, Moon Frenzy. 6th, Tangling Creeper. 7th, Unfettered Pack. 8th, Monstrosity Form. 9th, Wrathful Storm. Okay, so there's a little bit of battlefield control here. AoE. And mostly buffing yourself and beating the shit out of things. Cool. Vessel spell, Darkened Forest Form. This is my favorite Vessel spell, because of how it feels. It seems fun. Avatar, Beast of the Boughs. It has 70-foot fly speed and a Jaws melee attack that does piercing, but 70-foot fly speed. That's cool. Apparition Vessel spell, Darkened Forest Form. 1 action, and it has the traits Uncommon, Animist, Focus, Polymorph. Duration sustained up to 1 minute. Your apparition casts a feral shadow over your form. You can polymorph into any form listed in Pest form. When you transform into a form granted by a spell, you gain all the effects of the form you chose from a version of the spell heightened to Darkened Forest Form's rank. Each time you sustain this spell, you can choose to change to a different shape from those available via any of the associated spells. That's my favorite part, because it makes you into a constantly shape-shifting, confusing opponent. That's neat! Yeah, that's great. Melee. Anyway, heightened to 2nd rank, you can also transform into the forms listed in animal form. So this is for combat, not just for travel. Heightened to 5th rank, you can also transform into the forms listed in elemental form. This is kind of what I wanted druidic shapeshifting to be. I love that you can just keep changing it whenever you want. This seems like so much fun. I'm a bird, now I'm a wolf, now I'm a snake. All right, next apparition. That one was my favorite because of the playstyle. Next apparition, Steward of Stone and Fire. Stewards of Stone and Fire linger near volcanoes and deep places near the heart of the earth, hot springs where the water is too scorchingly hot to allow casual enjoyment, and other places where the barrier between fire and earth is thin or non-existent, though particularly old rock formations, canyons, and other natural features of earth may also spawn or attract them. Stewards of Stone and Fire are quick to anger and slow to forget. Apparition skills, mountain lore, volcano lore. I would go farther and make volcano lore function for the plane of fire. Because, you know, if your players ever go to the plane of fire, they need to know how to survive right away. So I would just say that this spirit knows about the plane of fire. Apparition spells, cantrip ignition. Always useful. I mean, in a fight, not just for like lighting forest fires or whatever. First, interposing earth. Second, exploding earth. Third, fireball. Fourth, wall of fire. Fifth, wall of stone. Sixth, petrifies. Seventh, volcanic eruption. Eighth, earthquake. Ninth, falling stars. This is just blow up the world. The apparition. Yeah, it's a fun apparition though. Vessel spell, Earth's bile, avatar, blood of planets. Yup. Not Pluto. It has a burrow speed, ignore difficult terrain and greater difficult terrain. It has an action called Avalanche of Molten Stone. It's fire, versatile bludgeoning, and a ranged attack called Cleansing Eruption. It's just throwing fire 120 feet. Alright, so Apparition Vessel spell, Earth's Bile. This is the one that did too much damage in playtest, so they had to modify how the focus spells work. Earth's Bile. It has the traits Uncommon, Animist, Earth, Fire, Focus. Range, 30 feet. Area, 10-foot burst. Which by itself is cool, because it's at first level. Defense, high. Basic reflex, duration sustained up to 1 minute. That's right, a 10-foot burst sustained at first level. Why is your tail wet? Do I want to know? Your apparition is the will of lava and magma made manifest, the earth's molten blood, unleashing devastating bursts of liquid stone and unquenchable fire at your command. When you cast the spell and the first time you sustain it each round thereafter, choose an area within range. Each creature in the area takes 1d4 fire damage, 1d4 bludgeoning damage, and 1 persistent fire damage. The persistent fire damage is negated on a successful save. Heightened. Every 2 ranks, the fire and bludgeoning damage each increase by 1d4, and the persistent fire damage increases by 1. Awesome damage from an area focus spell. That's kind of everything you want in a damaging spell. Because you get it back between fights. I'm losing my voice. That is a great spell. Yes, you're a good kitty. Okay, the last couple apparitions. Vanguard of Roaring Waters. I was really underwhelmed by this in the playtest. Let's see if it got better. Vanguards of Roaring Waters are found where rivers carve their way through mountains, creating fearsome rapids. They can also be found near bays where rivers meet the sea and create turbulent breakers and unpredictable undertows, coastal reefs that tear the bottoms from unwary ships, and isolate islands. Oh, and isolate islands, you idiot. Or anywhere else where water becomes violent and difficult to navigate safely. Vanguards of Roaring Waters encourage chaos and are easily bored. Okay, so they're asshole water apparitions. Apparition skills, mountain lore, river lore. Those could be useful in a campaign. Apparition spells, cantrip, rousing splat. I do want to point out something, that because these are lores, they would have a lower DC for anything they apply to than general knowledge of that kind of topic. So for that, the apparition is extremely useful and versatile and has a better chance of making checks that these things might apply to, because they can just keep switching between different apparitions to have different lores for the campaign. Apparition spells, cantrip, rousing splash. Cool, defense. First, hydraulic push. Second, mist. 3rd, Crashing Wave. 4th, Hydraulic Torrent. 5th, Control Water. That is just a crap spell. 6th, Personal Ocean. 7th, Dancing Fountain. 8th, Whirlpool. 9th, Wrathful Storm. Water, water, water. Okay. You really need to be in or near water for some of these to be better than they otherwise are. Rousing Splash is always good. Vessel spell, River Carving Mountains. Avatar, River that splits the world. Would you be surprised to hear it has a swim speed? Its melee attack is called Parting Mountains. It has bludgeoning damage or versatile slashing. And the ranged attack is called Crash into the Sea. It does bludgeoning damage, versatile piercing, and the water trait. Interesting. Okay, so the vessel spell. River Carving Mountains. 1 action. It has the traits Uncommon, Animist, Focus, Water. Duration sustained up to 1 minute. Your apparition solidifies around you into roaring water and spraying mist. For the duration of this spell, you have lesser cover against ranged attacks and gain a plus 10-foot status bonus to each speed you have. When you first cast the spell, and each time you sustain it, you can stride up to your speed while your apparition fills each square you pass through with the lingering energy of a coursing river. These squares become difficult terrain until the start of your next turn. Bear in mind, it's not water, it's the energy of a coursing river. So it's essentially movement, motion, like gravity waves. These squares become difficult terrain until the start of your next turn. You can use River Carving Mountains while burrowing, climbing, flying, or swimming instead of striding if you have the corresponding movement type. It's really useful for getting around a battlefield. And yes, it does cause difficult terrain. That's useful, but not a good enough reason to just take the spell by itself. The cover against ranged attacks is awesome. Yes, it's only like +1. It's utility. It's a somewhat useful utility spell. It's never going to be the primary reason that you take that apparition. At least it's really unlikely to be. Alright, now, last apparition. Witness to Ancient Battles. This one's a lot of fun too. I have to say this is probably my second favorite. Witnesses to Ancient Battles. Maybe the first one's the shape-shifting one. Witnesses to Ancient Battles may be the lingering remnants of soldiers who never returned from their last deployment, or the restless souls of warriors whose final contest left them unfulfilled. Or the apparitions may be Valkyries and other beings from beyond, naturally drawn to sites of death and battle, or even the unquiet entity formed from a battlefield that saw so much death and blood it gained a spiritual essence of its own. Witnesses to Ancient Battles are often somber and grim. Well, that makes sense. Not exactly the life of the party. Apparition skill, Battlegrounds lore, Heraldry lore. Both of those could be useful in a wide variety of campaigns. That's cool. Apparition spells, Cantrip, Shield. 1st rank, Sure Strike. 2nd rank, Enlarge. 3rd, Ghostly Weapon. 4th, Weapon Storm. 5th, Invoke Spirits. 6th, Phantasmal Calamity. 7th, True Target. 8th, Canticle of Everlasting Grief. 9th, Weapon of Judgment. Some of these are really nice to have for a Divine Caster, because they're hard to get for a Divine Caster. Alright. Avatar, General of Endless Battle. It's, oh cool, has a speed of 70 feet, immune to Immobilized. Melee attack, only a melee attack. Final Strike, it has the Agile, Fatal D12, and Reach 15 traits, and does slashing damage. Vessel spell, Embodiment of Battle. Embodiment of Battle has the traits Uncommon, Animist, and Focus, duration sustained up to 1 minute. Your apparition guides your attacks and imparts its skill to your movements. For the duration, your proficiency with martial weapons is equal to your proficiency with simple weapons, which is still kind of slow. You gain a +1 status bonus to attack and damage rolls made with weapons or unarmed attacks, and you gain the Reactive Strike reaction. That's cool. This reaction gains the Apparition trait. The instincts of an Apparition of Battle run contrary to the use of magic. So gaining the Apparition trait really only applies to certain feats that say you can use things with an Apparition trait. The instincts of an Apparition of Battle run contrary to the use of magic. For the duration of this spell, you take a -2 status penalty to your spell attack modifiers and your spell DCs. You still could use passive spells or buffing spells. Those are perfectly fine, which is probably what you'll be doing if you are making yourself better at using weapons in combat with Reactive Strike. Heightened to 4th rank, the status bonus to attack and damage rolls granted by the spell is increased to +2. Heightened to 7th rank, the status bonus to attack and damage rolls granted by this spell is increased to +3. And it's a status bonus. I see people taking Animist just for the embodiment of Battle Vessel spell. And like occasionally healing if they need to. Because it's a really good way to feel like a battle-worthy cleric. Because you're a divine caster, you buff yourself, and then you kick ass in a fight. Yeah, that's a really cool choice. In fact, it would also work well with the Stalker and Darkened Boughs? Yeah, Stalker and Darkened Boughs. Yeah. You could do both of them and just kick ass in combat. Although the Stalker and Darkened Boughs is not about weapons. Bummer. Okay, they don't work together. But they're both fun. And they're both about combat. Tell me what your favorite apparition was or your favorite apparition combo. I want to hear that. Partly because of roleplay. Like, I'm picturing a witness to ancient battles along with the Reveler in Lost Glee. Somebody who wants you to laugh at everything they do, and somebody who takes everything way too seriously. That would be fun to roleplay, because you're like stuck in the middle between these two, like arguing through your ears. Yeah, I love the Lurker and Devouring Dark too. Yeah, my favorite is, I think I've just always wanted to be able to shapeshift. So my favorite is just going to be Stalker and Darkened Boughs. But the crafting one, Crafter in the Vault, the Traveling Workshop, is extremely flavorful and can also make your character. Like, if you aren't sure of anything you want your character to focus on or think about, but you want some way to roleplay, and you're playing an Animist, then just pick Traveling Workshop and just be obsessed with, like, mentally deconstructing how things are made and making them anew. It's a huge role-playing impact on your character. Yeah, I love that the apparitions are other creatures that are talking to you in your head about what you should and shouldn't do. They're friends. Yeah, I guess they're friends. You gotta keep them happy, though. They're pets. I gotta keep him happy, or he will eat me in my sleep. He's like, man, just give me some more treats. Just give me some more treats. All right, thank you for being here today. Like I said, let me know what you think of for combinations of apparitions. That would be fun to play. Yes, hello. If you are a patron, thank you for being here every day. I greatly appreciate your help. So does he. Once we reach 3,000 subscribers, we're having our next giveaway for 80mm. I probably shouldn't shake the table. 80mm D20. That's liquid core. That sparkles. Sorry, I love watching this thing. Thank you for being here. If you want to see more War of Immortals here, if you want to see the latest live stream, Stolen Fate is freaking fun. I'm going to review that adventure and give it, like, all the stars.